Greetings, programs. My name is Wretch, and I'd like to welcome you to Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector. In 2022, I played the original Citizen Sleeper, and it was one of the best indie games I played that year, if not the best. Garrett Martin did such a great job creating this unique world with awesome characters, music, just the vibe of it. He really fostered something special. And ever since playing the original game, I've been waiting very patiently, at times, for this sequel, and it just released on Steam. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. Let us go ahead and get going here. New game. Tutorials on, recommended, alright. Risky. The intended difficulty for those happy to be challenged. Broken dice cannot be used. Standard stress tolerance. Death incurs a significant permanent penalty. That is good life advice? We'll go ahead and confirm that. They have a dangerous mode too. Choose your class. So we have got Operator. Operator sleepers are built to work with drones and remote machines over local networks to perform corporate resource extraction from a distance. Operators have expertise in working with interfaces and computer systems, but are more physically fragile than other sleepers. Their reboot skill allows them to hack their own systems to re-roll dice, a risky but potentially powerful move. Sleepers assigned to operator work are usually cerebral and precise people. So it looks like a standard skill tree, which I think is a bit different from the original game. So +2 in interface, 1 in intuition, 1 in engage, and nothing in endure. Crew stress to reroll your action dice. Machinist. Machinist sleepers are built to repair. Look at that art style, guys. Built to repair and modify automated system used in corporate resource extraction. Machinists are very skilled engineers, but their isolated work means they often struggle with tasks requiring a direct approach or social engagement. Their focus skill allows them to focus on a single task and boost their dice to excel in it. Sleepers assigned to machinist work are usually diligent, careful, and structured people. +1 stress, +2, and focus the lowest dice. -1 stress on focus die, positive outcome. Engineered, so engaged. Not exactly the social butterflies. I see. Extractor. Extractor sleepers are built to work at the coal face of corporate resource extraction, often in hard vacuum environments. Extractors have a high level of physical endurance, but their confidence means they struggle with tasks requiring intuition. Their rally skill allows them to motivate those in their team, boosting their crew dice. Sleepers assigned to extractor work are often confident, self-sufficient, and have a high level of endurance. +2 to lowest crew dice. So we do have a crew in this game, apparently. Oh, I don't know which one I want to play. I think we may have played an operator last time. Let's go for machinist. Just gonna give it a shot. In the moment before waking, the dark space before conscious thought, you struggle to find the pieces of yourself. Usually these pieces come with a particular cadence, each appearing sequentially, like the boot process of an old terminal. First, your body. Artificial, compromised, but relaying sense data all the same. Then its context, the breeze of air filtration, the soft contact of your birth in 0G. Then emotion, coming into focus, coming into your body, bringing with it that first instinct, the one that has framed your past 100 cycles. Fear. But that familiar sequence does not arrive. Instead, you are unmoored in space, your body distant, your context silent, even your emotions somehow obscured and scattered. Among all that disarray, only one familiar thing arrives. The fear. It is a scrambled, panicked fear. The drowning fear, the falling fear. The fear that makes you reach desperately for any stable point. It is the fear that tells you something is wrong. Something is very wrong with you. Wake up, sleeper. The voice is whispered in your ear. An act that makes you suddenly aware of your head, pulsing in pain, your body rigid with tension. Sleeper. Familiar name. A mind copied, emulated. A body built, implanted. One person, sleeping, until their dead is worked away. Their double being made to work, to be consumed, and eventually to be destroyed. A proxy, an emulation, a sleeper. That is what you are. But you escaped. You remember that now. Broken free from your corporate creators, S and ARP, in search of a future. You cannot remember the details of your escape, but you know the fear has been with you ever since. All of a sudden, you remember you have eyes, and your eyes flicker open. Pale eyes and a pale face. Lane. The name comes with its own specific sensation of fear, one you recoil from instinctively. Sorry to interrupt. A sharp smirk. But this ends here. You search your mind for more than a name. Is this how you reward me for my generosity? Lane is leaning over your horizontal floating body, looking down into your eyes. I took you in, protected you, gave you a purpose. You try to look away, to the corners of your vision, to find something you understand. Your body does not respond. But I suppose that wasn't enough. He reaches into the pocket of his jacket and retrieves a small vial. This wasn't enough? The vial glitters. This object you know, and you've known for a long time. Stabilizer. The drug that keeps your artificial body, your emulated mind, from inevitable decay. The only balm for your planned obsolescence. The liquid rolling in the vial fills you with disgust. Lane pockets the vial. But it would be wasted on you now, after what you've done to this body of yours. He looks at you with palpable disgust. Lane's eyes scan your body, and as they do, you become aware of the wires and tubes attached to you. Those that were meant to free you from your dependence, from the stabilizer, and the control it grants Lane. They are free, you piece of shit. They don't need you anymore. The voice comes from somewhere behind Lane's head. It's a voice you know, but when you search your mind to try to understand why, you find only dizzying darkness. Shut him up, Lane barks the command, and you hear the sounds of impact, of pain, from somewhere else in the room. You try to move your limbs again, and this time you feel a flicker, the twitch of a finger. You feel the extension and compression of synthetic muscle. Free, are you? Lane smirks. You were free when I disabled your tracker, when I gave you the stabilizer you needed. He scans your body with angry eyes. Now, you aren't free. You're just broken. I had such big plans for you, sleeper. I invested in you. Lane grips your arm hard and you feel a jolt of reaction. You will the arm to move. But you have ruined all that. Lane speaks louder, over the sound of the struggle behind him. I will try to preserve your body, of course. I have my own uses for it. But your emulation? You feel one of his hands searching behind your head. He finds and grips the thick cable running into the port at the base of your skull. I will burn that out. Lane jerks forward, slamming across your body, then spinning away out of sight. You feel yourself rolling, the cables plugged into you looping and wrapping around your limbs. Then you feel hands steadying you, pulling cables. You glance around wildly and see someone diligently unplugging you. You meet his eyes. Hey! He waves a hand in your dazed face. We need to move. Lane won't be out long. He unloops a cable from around your wrist. Sleeper? Help me out here. You blink slowly. Do you know this person? He leans over you and you feel his hands on the connector, flicking switches, releasing locks. Come on, come on, come on. He tugs the connector clear and pulls you up. You see the room you're in for the first time, filled with tech and terminals, wires waving everywhere, all lit by big windows looking out over on an impossibly bright, screen-filled street beyond. In the corner, you see the dark shape of a floating body surrounded by a glittering constellation of crimson baubles. Is that blood? Move! You're wrestled and shoved towards the door, which slides open in front of you, and then you're out in all that brightness, all that movement, gliding hard towards some unknown destination. You come to a stop in a dark alley, the one who guided you here pausing to catch his breath. He doubles over beside a massive life support unit that sends a lukewarm breeze across your skin. You stare at him, trying to recall anything about him. You notice his tattered jacket, his lightweight clothes. You remember this station runs hot. Something about the power that flows through the place. He looks up and meets your eye. What's going on, sleeper? He wipes sweat from his forehead and it floats away in a swarm of spheres. Talk to me. Who are you? You see a concerned frown cross his face. Don't mess with me, sleeper. That's not funny. He comes closer, eyeing you carefully. What station are we on? He narrows his eyes, waits for the answer. You close your eyes, trying to recall. You force your way through the dark to the image of a station. No, a city, growing on the back of a vast set of hexagonal solar cells, shadowed by them. You open your eyes. Darkside. The word leaves your mouth like an exhale, an instinct, before you heard yourself sound it off like you didn't know it was there. He sighs. And me? Who am I? You see something like fear in his eyes. Panic, perhaps. You stare hard at his face, the slight upturn of his mouth, the intensity of his stare. Nothing comes. He closes his eyes and drops his head, putting a hand to his temple. Oh, the reboot. He's speaking quietly to himself. Lane interrupted the process and he lifts his head and stares at you. We need to keep going. We need to leave. He turns and kicks off down the alley. Come on. The rig can't be far. As you're led through the passages and serviceways of the station, you try to recall your life here. The texture, the temperature of darkside feels familiar, but you struggle to pin specific memories to it. Focusing hard, you recall waking up in these passages cycle after cycle, the rhythms of the station flowing over you along with the crowds. You recall desperation and the slow decay of your body that caused it. Then Lane, those pale eyes, offering you a glittering vial, stabilizer, the promise of supplying more of your work, a deal he locked you into like a cage. There your memory fails you, but in the dark beyond the moment and residue of panic, of fear, remains. You were Lane's prisoner, Lane's plaything. You shudder in the cold passage. Wait. Your guide holds up a hand, and you stop your glide using the wall. Ahead, you see the tunnel opens up into a wide open bay with a few doors leading to cylindrical tunnels. The docks. They're watching the rig. He nods toward the docks, and you see one of the doors has a couple of figures flanking it, one covered in ornate tattoos, the other with bright silver implants along their cheekbones. It's Subo. Lane's guys. He looks at you and shakes his head in frustration. All this, it's not coming back to you, is it? Something catches your eye and you see he's playing with a coin, nervously turning it over and over in his fingers. He sees you looking and slips it away. He places a hand on his chest. I'm Seraphin, all right? He looks pained when he speaks. Lane? He was our captor? Both of us? We did this so we could escape. We needed to reboot you, to break your dependence on stabilizer. He pauses. You know what that is, right? You nod meekly. But Lane interrupted me back there. The reboot didn't complete and... He sighs and shakes his head. We can still make this work. He looks back at the docks. I'll lead them away. You get the docking bridge open. If we make it to the rig, I know how to get us in. Got that? He searches your face for a sign of recognition. What's the rig? Seraphin looks annoyed. A ship. Our ship. At least it'll soon be. Lane assigned it to us when we were on jobs for him. Get that door open. He pats you on the shoulder. I know you can do this. Seraphin kicks off hard and glides into the docks. Over here, shitheads! He bellows to the guards as he barrels through. They immediately push off from the wall, giving chase. You wait a breath, then glide across the door they were guarding. You look, already panicked at the tightly sealed door, its control panel locked out. You hear a shout from somewhere nearby. You need to get it open. During scenes, you may encounter skill checks where you can perform certain actions using your skills. Like the dice actions you will encounter later, skill checks can have a positive, neutral, or negative outcome. The better the rating of your skill, the more likely you will succeed on a check. The odds of success are displayed when you select the check. You can see more in the guide section of the pause menu. Okay. So we can interface or break the seal. Now, because we don't really have high in interface, we got a 25% chance for positive, 50% for neutral, and 25% negative. But we are an engineer, a machinist, so we have a 50-50, either positive or neutral. So that is definitely what we need to go with. Neutral outcome. You shift to the central access panel and wrench it open. You scan over the mechanism, looking for a weakness. Somewhere nearby, you hear more shouting. You reach in and grab the main latch, straining as you bend it outward. The seal releases, and you drag the door halfway open. It screeches in its metal frame as you pull. Go! Go! Seraphin flies past you, through the doorway, into the docking tunnel. You turn to see the two guards approaching fast across the docks, and quickly glide after Seraphin. Seraphin is already at the rig's door, inputting an entry code. The rig's doors scissor open, and you both rush inside. Quickly! Seraphin grabs you by the arm and drags you up into the cockpit, the ship's layout hazy in your mind. He dumps you into a flight seat and straps himself into his own. You see him tap a series of buttons as he does, talking to himself. Come on. The rig's drive rumbles into life, and Seraphin slams a button on the console. You feel the force of the ship's acceleration as it pulls away. As the ship glides into place on the connecting bridge, its automatic systems nudge there by the port's docking controls. You feel a sense of relief. Seraphin burned hard out of darkside, and you dropped in and out of consciousness in your seat as the rig made its way across the belt. But now, with open space between you and Lane, you feel fresher, more awake. Seraphin breaks the silence. We're good, sleeper. His eyes don't leave the monitor, and you realize this part of your escape is routine for him. You and he must have docked this ship countless times in your work for Lane. The problem is, you don't remember any of them. We made it, he whispers, closing his eyes and letting out a sigh. We certainly did. He turns, and you see a pained look on his face, as if remembering something difficult. Have you said this exact thing to him before? Is this the same situation? Stay silent because I feel I may have said something awkward. Seraphin reaches up, flicking through a set of switches in a practiced fashion, completing the shutdown. You watch, a little frustrated with your own uselessness. Running the rig, you realize, is just another thing you've forgotten. A clunk that runs through the walls of the ship is followed by a short percussive alarm tone from the pilot's console. Docking complete. Seraphin kicks off from his seat, twisting as he glides past you towards the back of the cockpit. His hands find the rails on either side of the door, and he pauses, facing into the corridor beyond. He turns back to you, backlit in cold cyan. We need a plan. He glances around. Lane's not going to let us slip away quietly. We need to talk. Seraphin furrows his brow. Not now, Sleeper. We need to forget. He flinches, the words coming out wrong. We need to focus on something other than us. We need to survive this thing first, then maybe we talk. Stay silent. We've bought ourselves some time. He glanced through the cockpit window at the blinking lights of the station. You may not remember hexport, but I do. And there are plenty of opportunities here for us, if we can keep our heads down. He turns back to the corridor. And that's what we'll do. He pushes off and glides toward the main lock, and you follow, pulling yourself along, hand over hand, in 0G. We already emptied the tank on this thing. He slaps a hand against the ship's insides. So, we need to refuel, and that won't be cheap. But if you and I know one thing, Sleeper, it's how to work. I'm going to get myself reacquainted, see if I can turn up any old connections, people that might throw us up an easy contract. You? He glances back over his shoulder. You keep out of trouble. Low profile. Got it. Seraphin stops at the airlock. Stopping the reboot halfway through, he pulls a worn crew jacket from a locker and starts putting it on. We don't know what that did to you. He jams an arm into his sleeve. I don't want you passing out in... He stops. I'll be fine. Seraphin drops his head, swearing to himself. He grabs another crew jacket and thrusts it at you. Just put the damn hood up, will you? You take it and slip it on. Thank you. Seraphin nods. He stabs at the button to open the lock. The inner door hisses open and Seraphin glides through. Wait for a little bit, then leave. Anyone looking for us will be looking for two people traveling together. He looks at you in your worn crew jacket, a limited disguise for what is clearly a sleeper. We meet back here later. You need trouble? Same thing. Meet here. He surveys your disguise again and shakes his head. This is a shitty idea. He gives you one last look. Maybe find yourself something to eat. Suddenly you recognize Seraphin's instinct to look after you. A flash of a relationship now lost to the reboot. Catch. Seraphin throws a handful of something towards you. You manage to grab the projectiles, and when you open your hand, you see a stack of cryo-chits. Those should get you some food. We'll need some more for fuel and supplies. He grimaces. That means odd jobs on the station, for both of us. Seraphin kicks off and glides down the docking bridge. Don't go too far, all right? He shouts as he leaves. Take it slow. And with that, he's gone, leaving the connecting bridge and heading into Hexport's docking concourse. You wait for a moment of silence. Make a plan? You try to think ahead to what might be coming. You'll need work, that's the first step. But what then? Lane will be coming eventually. The sooner you can put some distance between you and Hexport, the better. So, that's the plan. Rest, resupply, and run. You shake the thoughts from your head and pull the jacket tight. Let's see what Hexport has to offer. You kick off and glide into the port. Welcome to Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector. Can't wait. The game runs in cycles, during which you can perform actions with your dice, use cryo to buy food, fuel, supplies, and items, progress clocks toward new scenes and events. You You can review tutorials at any time in the guide section of the pause menu. So, in terms of tutorial, the rig is your ship and home in the Starward Belt. While the rig is docked at a hub, there are multiple areas you can visit. Bunks, use dice to reduce stress. Galley, use supplies to regain energy. So this is essentially like that little abandoned apartment we had in the first game, only without a cat, which makes me sad. Other locations will unlock as you play. While the rig is in dock at a hub, your crew will also help to gather resources to contribute to the upkeep of the ship. You can choose which resources they should focus on in the crew task menu to the left. They have a random chance of acquiring it at the beginning of the following cycle. So, for the galley, this clock is a cycle clock. It'll progress toward an event each cycle. Its completion will trigger significant events. So we're always under the clock many times, like we were in the first game. You put some distance between you and Lane, but you're sure that he'll close the gap as soon as he's able. Understood. Okay, so I'm trying to remember how we right-click. Okay. And left stick. I do not have left stick. How do I go ahead? Well, I guess I got my controller connected here. Ah, I can go ahead and move it around. Alright. I was using mouse and keyboard here, but let's see if I can... Looks like we only have 2 locations we can go to. We got the Hexport Exchange for way station goods, and the busy way station dock. In Citizen Sleeper 2, you perform actions by assigning action dice to them. The higher the dice you assign, the more likely you succeed in action, but your dice will be modified by your skill. Your skill modifier for the action is displayed on the right, and will reduce or increase the value of the dice assigned to the action. Your skill checks dice actions will have 3 outcomes: positive, negative, and neutral. Each action is also rated safe, risky, or dangerous based on the outcomes it has. The more dangerous an action is, the more significant both its reward and consequences are. For more information on dice actions, check the guide section. So we've got chat to crews. There are plenty of crews milling around the docks and moving cargo. They could be a good source of info. And how do we go back and forth between those? I actually kind of like the mouse and keyboard a little bit more. Let me see if I can switch over to that. Yeah, I'll have to, maybe like a combination of mouse and keyboard in this. Explore the docks. Hexport's docks are a dizzying mess of braided cables and flickering signage filled with busy spacers. Exploring is both thrilling and intimidating. Interesting. And what skills required? Engaging, which I do not have, and intuition, which I don't have that much of. I don't think. So... yeah, I've only got like the most basic of intuition. Welcome to the character screen. Here you can upgrade and configure your sleeper. Upgrade skills, On the right you can upgrade your push. Oh, that's cool. So we can actually make that like our super ability even better. Upgrading your push, only 1 upgrade at each level can be active at once. Oh. Well, that is neat. 4, 4, 4. And we just have nothing in the engage section. 0 points available, which is fine. And 2 points to upgrade. Man, I love the work they've been doing on this. And then we've got the exchange. Trade scrap. Trading scrap is all about identifying materials and cleaning up components. It's an engineer's job more than a trader's. Yes, and okay, that's where we specialize. And then impress the brokers. Data brokers are the heart of the exchange. They show off their knowledge by discussing the decryption. Maybe if you can talk the talk. I think that might be our best option to do, guys. But we have an entire star system and possibly more to explore, so I think this is a good place to go ahead and call it the first episode. Hope you all have enjoyed. If you liked the episode, please leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, that'll be a big help, and we'll see you next time. Later days, everyone.